Okay, so we've made it to the bottom of our lesson plan template. And really, all the bottom is are logistical considerations for you as a teacher. There's a couple things that we have at the bottom. One is interdisciplinary connections, the other one is materials needed, and the final one, is technologies being used. And the purpose of this part of the lesson plan is to think through what competencies and tools you will need to consider before class. It is a way of helping you organize both the materials that you're going to need to pull together, what copies are you going to need to make, as well as how can I draw on other things that students may already know, such as what are they learning in other classes in order to help them make connections. So with regard to interdisciplinary connections, you want to consider how might your lesson relate to another content area. And so typically we think about our core content areas like math, science, and social studies or history. But you might also think about what other connections can I draw between the English content and art or band and orchestra, because those are within the humanities. Is there a movement involved that might include things that students are learning in physical education or health elements, business class, family consumer sciences, woodshop, mechanics. So don't just think about your core courses like math, science, and social studies and history. Think about the other courses that students might take that might be something that you can rely on based on the knowledges that students have. You may not connect to other disciplines every day, and that's fine. But by integrating other course content and trying to make those connections, you really do enrich what students are learning. And it also might be helpful to actively seek out collaborations by doing something interdisciplinary and creating units with the other teachers in your same grade level, because that can really enliven a content area, as well as show students how English content doesn't just live in a vacuum over here separate from what students learn in math and science and social studies. The materials needed section seems pretty obvious, but think about everything that you are going to need. It puts you in a really strong mindset of thinking, all right, do I have all the copies that I'm going to need? Do I have all the materials I needed to make for students? Is there anything else that I need to do before implementing this lesson? Questions you can think about: do I need to make any handouts? What about other physical materials? Do I need to make any copies? Do I need to post something online for students? So if you're doing something in Google Classroom, do I need to post something in there so that they can turn it in? Will students need copies of a particular text? And so do I need to get copies of a book? Like, do I need to go to the book room and get class copies of something? Will they be using an anthology? Do I need to create a PowerPoint or other online presentation? Will I need to create a chart or tool for breaking students up in small groups? And so even those small considerations, what are the things that you're going to need for class? And then finally, technology. You do need to plan for the things you'll need with regard to technology, both what you will need and what will students need. You will consider not only the software. Do I need to use Microsoft Word or Google Slides, but the hardware as well? So do I need a laptop? Do students need a laptop? Do I need a projector? What sort of things do you need? And also don't forget about things like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, because just because they're less visual doesn't mean that they aren't an important consideration on your lesson plan. This will force you to think about the applications that may be new to you and the students, and it may also require you to try them out before your lesson. Believe me, I've had enough experience with technology to know that sometimes things don't go as planned. I'd forgotten that a particular app was blocked by my school, and I just wasn't able to do that lesson. I had to think really quickly on my feet. And so planning with technology is really, really critical so that you don't run into issues like I have in the past. And so you can see it's actually quite clear on the lesson plan. So this lesson addresses larger issues of the role of society and government when it comes to the well-being of communities. And so I'm trying to connect this then to social studies topics of civics and local, state, and national policy. So it may be a stretch, but it's something that I may want to incorporate and also ask students, have you learned about any of this in your history or social studies classes? Materials needed, I just list them right here. And it's a wonderful reference point right before you implement your lesson to look at the bottom of your lesson plan, look at the materials needed, and make sure that you have everything. And then finally, what technology will I use? Well, the teacher will need a computer and projector to post directions on PowerPoint, and then students for this particular lesson aren't using any. So it's okay to say that we're not using technology in a particular lesson. So these are all really just final considerations as you are getting ready to teach your lesson. And this section is meant for you to think through and make sure that you have everything that you need. So that is the lesson plan template. I hope that this has been useful, this module, and that you will reflect back and refer back to this as much as you need to throughout the year.